Hello, everyone. Here we are back now with Athan Bloom. He is the CEO of Nano Resonance. He's an expert in frequencies as the standard and vibrational fields, and how frequency patterns can basically restore not only health in yourself, health in water. Because we need to remember that water needs to be fractal and pure for hydrated in you for real, because if you drink that dead water, you will not hydrate yourself. For that, he will explain a little bit about his background and his history, because he has an hour to share with you. And he will explain you what devices you can implement in your community, in your home, or in your industries to restore water purity and water fractal crystal structures, because it's not about only toxicity, it's about restoring a water crystal. That is what allows implosion to happen for you to restore health in your cells. So welcome, Athan. Thank you for being here with us. And please introduce yourself and share with the public what do you have on board.
Okay, yes. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. My name is Athan Bloom. I'm a scientist and a businessman with a specialization in resonant frequency. I've worked close to a decade with underground research and development projects, and my passion is nature and helping develop solutions to restore our water resources and provide technologies we can become more stewards of nature and future generations. The problems of our planet need to be solved from a higher level of understanding than the level that it was created with. And this is the mission story of Nano Resonance Industries and Blue Boson. We're a research and development and water technology company with a focus on new innovation and regenerative breakthrough. And the technology we use is based on the use of frequencies that modify the structure of water in fluids and gases to achieve targeted results. We reorganize and change the structure of fluids at a molecular level, allowing us to target elements, separate solids, and remove contaminants without the cost of and health burden of toxic chemicals. And so the very unique part of what we do is it allows us to solve water problems from its root using physics, without the strain of pH, temperatures, pressure, or other environmentally toxic or harmful chemicals. A very unique part of our technology is that we have the ability to elongate the hysteresis, or the orbit of electrons of the water molecule, resultingly reducing the superficial tension of fluids, as well as altering the boiling point, the freezing point, and also increasing the efficiency in desalination. By using our technology, we actually can reduce everything to a quarter of its normal capacity due to the speeding up of the process of the matter and solids separation. And regarding biological treatments, we have different systems of frequencies that cause pathogens in the water to oscillate, that cause harm to the membrane or the nucleus, depending on the size of the pathogen. So any element is susceptible to a frequency. It all depends on the appropriate frequency that's applied to the size of the object. A frequency can be applied to a nanometric pathogen, as well as a pathogen that's already 1 millimeter in size. It all depends on the bandwidth we apply. So these technologies can be installed in line right now in existing water systems or on outdated abandoned water plants to bring inadequate structures and infrastructure back up to requirements. And so this is also why it's so important that we need to research and spearhead advancements in resonant frequency, and why physics is so very important for human future. It's truly regenerative, and it uses rules of nature to solve our problems, principles of physics. It's what we're all built upon. And from my understanding, everything in the universe is physics, and the human body is an electromagnetic machine. Water is the matrix for all life, and hydrogen is the fuel of all life. And electrons, if you look at the human body, as you were just saying, it's transported through a living system only when they're attached to hydrogen or negatively charged hydrogen ions, as it's found. So plants and all biological life are symbiotic within fields of the environment, and humans are just beginning to comprehend this. We're just realizing that there's so many fields of communication beyond the immediate human observation. And everything is electromagnetically entwined. We live in an electric universe, right? So all cells need energy to work on this planet. They must maintain a pH of 7.35 to 7.45, and that's equal to about negative 20 to 25 millivolts of capacitance. So if you look at pH is also the potential voltage of liquid. It's in a solution. Everything is an electron donor or an electron stealer, capacitance and resistance, right? So when there's a state of homeostasis or resonance, maximum current flow is what we call it, or the net resistance is zero at a cellular level, biological life becomes healthy. And this is also the same model for the entire Earth ecosystem, and especially in water, because the intermolecular forces, the hydrogen bond, is what transports all energy and information throughout all biological life on this planet. So this is what makes what we do so very important. As we explore the sciences, we're learning that there's a vast ocean of communication and frequency beyond what humans today observe. And it's my belief that humans can live in abundance and in good health with a better understanding that we are nature. We're not separate from that. And as human beings and an intelligent species, as we're calling ourselves, we should humble ourselves to take the responsibility through stewardship and responsible action. And that's the goal of, Nano Resonance Industries. So we've developed and devised multiple technologies throughout the years that have been used for cooling towers. They've been used to restore riverways and line using frequency and inductance without the use of harmful chemicals. We've been able to build municipal water plants, replacing the use of chemicals, but also decreasing the size and reducing the processes. So this is the mission for what we do, and thank you for the time. And if you have any questions, we are standing by to help. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Yeah, there's people don't, because people are used to that everything is record. This is live. If you have any question for Athan, this is the moment to say. Let's say why you are inside the car. You had an issue, a technical issue because of the weather.
Yeah,
we have to drive really far to find a place where connection was better and talk to us from the car, but it's live, so no one is recording. If you have any doubt about, he knows a lot about how animals perceive, how bees perceive, how dolphins perceive, how all the animals that are not completely castrated like us, conditioned with knowledge, perceiving only with words, the fragments were unified. Animals don't perceive like that. And that's the person that understands all this. So could you please share?
Absolutely. Well, let me get into this further. So, and this is, you can look at this throughout the world, throughout advanced studies, whether you go to Berkeley University, Harvard, European technology agencies, everywhere in the world, they've found out that we have magnetosomes in our cells, that there's cryptochrome cells behind multiple species, even humans, behind the ocular nerves. So we can actually perceive different UV or spectrums, but there's spectrums that are far beyond the typical human sensory. And if you look at bees and you look at birds and lobsters and animals that are reliant upon navigation, there's something, and it's discovered in the human brain as well as animals. And this magnetite is in the brain. Magnetosomes are within the cells, and so everything within our planet, in the universe, is electromagnetically entwined. And so there's bandwidths that you may not see. That example, insects are reliant upon travel. You have birds and flocks of insects that are falling out of the sky when we apply certain radio frequency or other things that disrupt navigation. And this has been found to be the same thing within military sonar. These are wavelengths that, just because humans can't see or immediately observe, does not mean that they're not disrupting the ecological systems or biological function of life. And everything in all life, I was mentioning earlier, must maintain a homeostasis of that electromagnetic and hydrogen function within, the body or plant, even photosynthesis. Everything is about transportation of energy and how that energy can be transported. And I think that's very, very interesting as well, because we get to capacitance, the ability for the not only the human body to transport information, but the speed of that information that could be transferred to cells, or cells that die because they don't, receive that information. And I think that's one very important thing that we've missed with water. And water carries a structure. Water is a crystalline lattice matrix. And just like crystal, it holds information. Your cell phone transports information, and there's so many things that we see that we use today, microwaves, cell phones, and things, and we understand it. You can communicate with someone halfway across the world, yet, we still don't fully understand, why, or at least the mainstream doesn't. And that's very important. This is a science that needs to be understood worldwide, and that, if you affect the biological functions of something small, whether it's, a pathogen or a larger body, things have effect, whether it's short term or long term. And when we're launching thousands of satellites like Starlink, Elon Musk's program, into outer space, we don't have any evidence of the long-term biological healths or impairments that's going to happen, not just with human species, but with plants. And plants require a certain amount of communication. Leaves and the roots of plants, everything, they resonate. And that's also why species will flock to a tree when a tree is weakened. You look at, an olive tree. You can look at an old, Spanish Kalamata, for example, and that tree can be, 50 years old or 80 years old and be in really, really great health. You won't see any worms, and you won't see those moths that flock to the tree to lay eggs, right? But once they start to get older, or the immune system is compromised, the frequency changes. And that frequency is what allows, the communication or the signal for those species to know that that plant is weaker, that plant is more susceptible to them being able to, harvest from it. And, this is the same in bacteria. This has to do the same with ecological and biological systems. And so if we can understand how levels of frequency, levels of inductance, where pathogens can, live and tolerate, and these little different applications of physics, it brings together a whole kind of portfolio that nature actually provides us, that we can replicate to do beneficial things within our environment, whether it's restoring ecological or biological systems. And we can use those same principles of physics that are quite, non-harmful, but they don't leave environmental impacts, such as, the chemicals that become runoff, or go right back into our water systems. We have all sorts of things like PFAS, polyfluoral alkyl substances. They come from a lot of the chemical processes, AFFF foam from military, or a lot of the cookware stuff, but it's stuck throughout water systems and going into aquifers throughout our planet, and there's no testing, there's no good quality regulation, and there's no intent to. And that's it's very concerning, at the same time of how municipalities are overregulated, forced to add different chemicals, because people and local municipalities or water in the areas should be able to have a say as to how clean their water resources are. So part of our main priority is to be able to help provide technologies that are inline, that can provide immediate solutions, whether it needs to be plugged into a pipe system to provide redundancy for pathogens or backflush control, or to provide technologies that can be deployed worldwide, that don't need a lot of energy, that don't need a lot of maintenance, and can be used in a way that to replace the chemical processes that are typically necessary to provide sanitization where they're desperately needed in the world. And these technologies have also allowed us to speed up the process. For example, sodium, or when you talk about salt, these desalination process, we can actually use physics to break up the elements of chlorine and sodium and have them disassociate using magnetic resonance and frequency. And within this process, we can have them precipitate faster, and you're expanding and extending the life of the membranes that would typically feed into a water plant system. So these systems can actually be deployed along, riverbanks or places where water typically isn't clean enough to be used and can be recovered. They can be mixed with brine or brackish water and things like that to provide custom solutions where the world desperately needs them. And that's primarily, I would say, in a nutshell, what we are focused on doing. The same applications also work with fuels. We've been able to increase the production of hydrogen by changing the structure or orbits of electrons within water using magnetic resonance and frequency, and produce more hydrogen on demand, as well as changing the structure of fuels. We've had testing with Mexico Energy and quite a few other, Nissan and other companies, where they've wanted to supplement their fuel savings or fuel costs. So we're able to increase, 6 to 8%, sometimes more, efficiency by elongating the hydrocarbon chain and stretching out the hydrocarbons to get a more efficient burn. So these technologies can be also retrofitted, customized in fuel plants or outdated plants, to where we can leverage the efficiencies and the savings to gradually implement these technologies where they're desperately needed, not to replace current systems that are in place today, but to actually work together with them and create a new stepping stone to move to other places in the world where we can do things with more intelligent and responsible action. And that's the mission of Nano Resonance and Blue Boson.
Sorry, I was mute. Sorry, I didn't realize. Thank you for your sharing.
What's going on here?
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you for your sharing. And I would like, if you can share with us which type of unions or industries are using your technology for restoring water and securing and ensuring hydration of cells in the communities, which type of communities are using it already, and which type of industries that are already, because this is not like a test. You already had been working on this for years and years. So could you explain that a little further, please, Russ?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is we're against the grain. And that's definitely not mainstream. We're not, chemical company or anything else like that. So we have some competition. However, we've worked in Mexico for quite some years, also in Europe. Large from some energy projects, companies, small companies to municipalities. So we've worked with CFE, we've worked with governments in different municipalities throughout Mexico, clean restored riverways in Oaxaca. We've applied these technologies to different places, such as Dolso or other projects in Poland, Slovakia, places in Europe. And we've built custom water plants for different customers, also government agencies, whether it's disaster management for mobile water treatment plants to be deployed after hurricanes. But primarily, and historically, we've stuck with customized and industrial projects, which allow us to create a foundation of equipment that can scale at a larger platform. And so that's really primarily been our focus. And as we're building these technologies, we're also looking to create more of these technologies for the public, to be able to make them, more commercially viable, both, price-wise and production-wise. So that's primarily the places that we've been able to implement and use these technologies. And anyone has any questions, they can send me a link, and I can provide a pitch deck and with a little bit of the showcasing and different places that we've applied the technologies, whether they're water places or projects such as Pimex or other, environmental showcases. There we go. I think you're mute again.
Sorry. Thank you so much. That makes complete sense what you are sharing. And I would like to, if you can explain, because you made a really good plan for people who want your devices, for not having to invest in them, because you know how to pay them, avoiding the payments of electricity. Could you explain a little bit about that, about Blue Blossom? Blue Blossom and the companies that, because the intention is shared, you basically vision it yourselves, instead of in the old paradigm that people compete and people think that I have to be better, I need more acknowledgement. You go together with another company that are saving water from fuel consumption, and you made a really good plan for people not to have to make a specific investment in the device. Can you explain how people can implement your devices without an extra budget? Because you know how to liquefy water better, so you spend less electricity. So can you please expand a little bit about that for people to encourage and say, yeah, I want to use that. This is not an advertisement or whatever. I'm just trying to tell people you don't need an extra effort to restore water in your community. You just need to find the ones who are really doing it for good and implement what you are exposing.
Absolutely. That's really important for us too. It's not just the quality of people that we, partners and so forth, and relationships that we create, but what we're doing is so very important. We need help. We need other people to be involved, people that want to work together with us as partners, get the technology out there, and help do projects. We can't do this alone, and it's so powerful. It can, you know, this technology to me is as powerful as alternating current became within the discovery of electricity. If you can change the molecular structure of fluids or waters or elements, you know, it's a game changer. It's a game changer for humanity. And we need to work together with water technology scientists and other people out there that see the importance of recovering our natural resources. And that's definitely our focus. It depends on the technologies and what we're looking to do. But as we're also looking and organizing, raising more capital and doing some other things, we're trying to integrate both lease financing options and options to where we can install the equipment for customers. They can see the results, and we can move forward with some sort of organized methodologies for return of investments and payments, and make things work where they need to. So lease financing also works with some of our larger, water plant projects and things like that. Also depends on some of the upfront production costs. When it comes to smaller equipment and things like that, we're looking to expand a lot of the technologies for sanitization in Europe, as well as water purification systems in Europe and the United States. And we're looking for partners, distributors, and people who seek to, advance the science and expand those resources together.
Sorry. Thank you for sharing all that. Could you please share with us a little bit about your private journey in all this about water? How you understood, how you become to the conclusion? Because when we are kids and we go to school, and they taught us they eat hydrological map full of fragments, and how like we are all separated and all that. How could you share with us how you had the insight or realization about putting yourself in service of water?
Okay. Well, that's a big question. Well, I am water, you know. So, in the end, we are that which we're seeking to fix, which is quite funny. I've always had a kind of an odd connection with nature, but my background was really interesting. Almost feels like Star Wars. I felt like I joined the corporate conglomerate. I went to the military. I became a navigation officer and merchant marine. I was part of special, programs that did observation and telemetry and used X and S band radar for the military. And so I met some very special people, had some very interesting experiences, and some amazing mentors who actually had led me along this path. One of them his name is Dr. Eliseo Bonilla. He's a nuclear physicist who really spent the last 30 years of his life wanting to take technologies that he used and he learned with radio and frequency and large projects. He worked on HARP and NORAD and other things, and he realized that the technologies that were being implemented around the world were not human or biologically friendly, a large portion of them. And I also had this kind of journey because I, worked aboard ships, and we were transporting equipment to Kuwait, and, you see all the world's resources all built up along the lines of, the shores going all the way to Kuwait, everything, it's when you see thousands of ships, and it looks like that theme from the movie Troy, you could see ships as far as you can see, and you're traveling hours. You're just wondering, how could all the world's resources just only be focused on oil, and when you really look at the international shipping, or what's unregulated, or the technologies that are out there that are applied. There's so many things that we could have been doing 40, 50 years ago. I mean, it should be the Jetsons already, but it's not. And a lot of technologies and things that are put out there are suppressed. And I've met a lot of people that have devoted their lives to technologies that no one's ever heard of. And they've tried to do, many things to create a better world and a better future for children and future generations. And that's, I guess, where my heart, feels the need for, this mission, because that's really what it is. It's so important for us to understand that we have an obligation as an intelligent species in a society, and that there are ways that we can help ourselves, and in helping ourselves first, because we can't help nature, we can't recover our planet, we can't recover these resources without understanding that nature already has its rules. These are set rules. You can't bend and break them. You can only learn from them. And so this is, I guess, where my path, kind of stepped in. I started in 2011, 2012. I stepped out of the military, started studying, physics and these technologies, and started investing in, hydrogen and other things, because it's really the most abundant element in the universe. Everything is water. We are water. And when we say we are one, that's really the conduit of all nature, of all life, the most prolific element in the universe. And when you burn hydrogen, what happens? You make water. so that's our energy. That's the fuel for the body. That's the way that we're going to recover our planet, and that's the way we're going to integrate ourselves as stewards into the future, and create a homeostasis with our natural environment. And that's my passion. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I guess I'm not the only one maybe crying here, but thank you for sharing. Someone says, "Oh, Ethan, grateful for your words and share." Like Wesley said, "Be water, my friend. You are it. He just saw it." But thank you for having the braveness needed to realize that you were not placed in the right industry and take out yourself from there and put yourself in service of the kids' future and our future to restore water, and put all your creativity and all your efforts in restructuring the substance we are all living inside, because humans are really confused, calling her different names and different wanting
Yeah.
her and putting her different concepts, and not realizing that we are destroying the substance that made us and where we live inside. And that can only be collectively done by raising awareness of unified water and raising awareness about frequency as the standard. So thank you for leaving the militaries. Maybe we have to get back there and tell them, hey guys, who made you? How you hired you were born in a probeta, or where did you were? You were born in water. You were made in water by water, and without it, you are basically destroying your own self. So thank you for sharing all that, part of your history. And could you please share with the audience how, with your devices, you can even improve how the boats move through water, because you can liquefy water more, so the boat will have less resistance, so it will extend less fuel to move from A to B, and even for freezing, or for not only for transporting, but for freezing. Could you explain how nano resonance can support any industry that is about transporting water, or freezing water, or using water to heat, or how nano resonance can improve those industries with the knowledge that and the devices that you have? You, yeah,
Yeah. So Well, in effect, if we look at physics or cosmic radiation or um, what happens to water, you know, there's a thing that there's a story. It's funny. I'll try to be fast. You know, the whole ecological or hydrological cycle and what we're teaching today hasn't been changed since I think eight, 1890. You know, we're still we still believe that aquifers are replenished from rain and it collects and so forth. But there's a whole vast ocean underneath the mantle. You know, things transform. Water gets pulled through and it goes from hydrogen and it condenses and then gets pushed up. And these aquifers are replenished. So we don't have a lack of water. We have a lack of properly structured water and clean water. And what we do with water, example, using magnetic resonance and frequency, the natural bond angle of water is 104.6 degrees. What that means is you have angles of hysteresis, or on the water molecule, you have two electrons. And those electrons, those distance between those electrons also regulate the information and the energy that water is holding. And so if you change the structure of water and you push the bond angles out further, not expelling the electrons like Kangen water or other things where they disassociate, but then they later reassociate and they create new conglomerates. What you can do is you can actually change the structure of water and put more energy, into that water. And then that water becomes a powerhouse of getting rid of toxins, having a better surface tension, penetrating the biological cell, increasing and stimulating the natural immune disposition of a plant or, biological life. And so you need a clean slate of energy. Sometimes you have, natural reorganizing, what's it called? Molecules that they conjugate, actually, or what Dan Winters talks about is how elements will naturally recombine or change the structure to where it's clean and pure of information, so it can better transport information and whatever it's carrying into the human or the biological cell. So we've noticed amazing, growth with, plants and biological life as well, with this water. So, like I said, it's the conduit for all communication. And so, when you can better transport energy or hydrogen, that's the goal that you want to be able to achieve with, the structure of properly structured water. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So basically, you're telling us that you have the solution for nature issues, because as Earth is an spherical stone immersed in water substance, if you restore water and restructure water, all nature will be increasing life force and blooming. And as nature is abundance, because from one tree, one fruit, 30 seeds can make 30 trees with a lot of fruit. There is no absence of water, as you said. Water just gets swallowed, changes the state, and gets back to the stream. So by restoring water, you restore life on Earth.
Absolutely.
What do you think that people can do to not invite, just force their representatives to stop using chemicals and implementing devices based in frequencies to restructure purity and fractality in water?
You create local solutions and you make them insignificant. And that's the only way we're going to make a difference. You can't, people talk about we need a revolution. We don't. We need a renaissance. We need to realize that there's a science and there's abilities and the technologies already out there, and we need to use it. We need to work together to discover these, sciences, to cross collaborate, and we do things from a grassroots level. And you see that that's kind of what the world's trying to stop right now. And so we need to come together faster than ever. We need to realize that there are solutions, and people that are within governments, within statehood, within places of responsibility need to make the choice. And that choice has to be, you know, to use things that are, or implement technologies that are more responsible, that have better long-term, benefits for our environment and for the people that they're looking to take care of.
Thank you so much. So basically, it's get together, implement those devices that can restructure water, feed yourself properly and drink and hydrate yourself properly, and showcase that to your community. And that would be spread, like it was spread that Earth was not flat, Earth was a spherical planet, when everyone believed different, even though now some of them believe they are flat still. But how to shift the paradigm, you think is not about forcing representatives, it's more like showcasing results of the change you did in your own community. Is that your...
Absolutely. We start, like I mentioned earlier, we start with ourselves, and you can't, it's like a doctor, you can't eat unhealthy and live unhealthy and try to, it's not very pleasing to watch someone live this way, but then try to direct you to live the opposite of that way, right? And I think that's a lot of what's going on. Is there's so many people that are not people, there's a lot of big industry that's reliant on the current outdated systems, and they're looking for solutions, but also they're reliant upon the security of knowing how those solutions work. And I think people need to take more risk. They need to look for different solutions. They need to think outside of the box and create those local solutions in their communities themselves. And they themselves then become, a template of and an example for other people to, follow along and work together with. And then we create a larger community. Then we create solutions together. And we leverage each other to success. And we create, new solutions where eventually other people will want to jump on board as well, because they see that, we're thinking long term.
Thank you so much. Makes completely sense. And I hope people wake up to fraternity back really fast enough. Because we are kind of, as you say, it's time to get together as fast as possible before we've been taught what to do, what to breathe, how to do it, and so on, or where to live. I was curious, can you please get a little bit deeper in explaining when you said that you can charge the particles in water with more energy? Can you describe how this can support the cell regeneration and how the cell absorbs that energy? Because you say that you put more energy in the particles so they get apart because of having much more energy. How hydrating yourself with that water can basically restore your cell and your immune system?
Mm-hmm. Well, it really comes down to the surface tension and the energetics of water. The more the surface tension is reduced, the larger surface area, and the more penetrating power water has to absorb into something or a human cell or transport something. As well, it's also, as I mentioned earlier, with hydrogen, negatively charged ions are transported through, water or hydrogen. So if you're looking at the electrical homeostasis of the human body as well, it's very important to have, pure water, that's not chemically laden, and it's free of contaminants. And we're realizing this more when we're looking at things like deuterium, and other things like that as well, because over however long humanity has existed, there's been a depletion of the quality of water. And there's different kinds of water too. If you'll look at, example, hot spring, it's naturally tuned to 7.83 hertz, or actually it's larger than that right now, the Schumann resonance. But, the water, and the structure of water, as it comes out of the planet, is completely different than the structure of water that you would have out of a water municipality, after it's already treated with all sorts of chloramines and fluorides and bromines and things like that in the process, and then it's forced through a 90-degree angle. Where in nature do you ever see a 90-degree angle? In a riverway? Or you don't. And so there's a lot that we don't realize, whether we're talking about the couplings of lead or other things, and what's used, and typical municipalities today. But we need to realize that that the very structure of water allows for the body to actually get rid of toxins, or just like the lymphatic system, or when we get rid of anything else that's toxic or harmful in the body or in the environment, that very structure allows the speed, and the availability of water to help flush out the body or help restore the environment, in a nutshell.
So I don't know if you know about the idea of tubing all the water and making it private, but makes no completely sense, because it makes no sense at all, because if you tube water and put her without the spinning in 90 grades angles, she will die, and you will die, because if water is dead, you are perishing with her. And so what would you say, like, if you have a representative in front of you and you have to speak to him like he's 6 years old, what would you say to stop that global plan of privatizing water? Because it's not only about privatizing, freeing limits of movement.
To who? I'm sorry.
And there are a bunch of
Oh.
representatives that are trying to global privatize water, and they start already in Russia. And you have to have a card that you put in a fountain, and that card has a chip and allows you to take only a few liters per month. And basically, is the lack completely of rights, not human rights, it's life rights, because you are a creature made by water, inside of water, in a water planet. So
Yeah.
when someone is so psychopath that tells you, okay, you have only been 20 gallons per month, and when you use them, you are done. We have nothing. And if you die in thirst, it's fine. It's because there's not enough water. So what would you tell to one of those representatives that are so confused with water fragmented and with absence in their minds, that are trying to privatize the global water stream? But I will ask you to tell them something straight from all your wisdom, like they are 6 years old, because I will send that to a few of them that are completely confused. So could you please explain to a 6-year-old representative mindset how wrong it is to tube water and not allow water spinning naturally?
Well, one thing I've learned is you can't force experience or understanding, especially to a psychopath, if that's the case. But it's genocide is really what it is. You can't privatize water. It's like privatizing humanity. We are water, and we're all interconnected. And you're playing God is really what's going on. And it's not something that's going to end well. And every species and plant or animal, everything has actually touched the same molecule of water once upon a time. You know, everything is recycled. You know, the air, the hydrogen we breathe out, the environment, the riverways, the water from the toilets you flush to the ocean, it's all interconnected. And it's interconnected. Um, we think we're in gas, but we're technically in a hydrogen cloud regulated by the compression of our atmosphere. And so I don't know. I guess the only question I could ask is, do you think you're God? You know, because it's not you. No, you know, it's not something that's going to ever create a sustainable future. You can't privatize human beings. You're creating slavery. And you privatize a resource, you're creating famine, you're creating a lack of water, you're creating people to struggle. And so to me, it's pretty obvious. You can't privatize water. And here's the other thing that makes zero sense. It's zero common sense. Okay. Water is not a mineral. And they privatize water based on the idea that water is a mineral, and water's not. This is universally understood. Water is an element, not a mineral. So that's already wrong in the textbooks around the world. You know, water is not a, you know, something that's you know, fixed within its structure. That is made of, you know, other things that minerals typically consist of. Water is a crystalline lattice matrix. It holds energy, and it has you know, the capacity to create life. And so when you
say it's a crystallized, say it again. Yeah. It's a crystallized.
Water is a crystalline lattice matrix, and its structure, the hexagonal structure of water, and how it conglomerates is really liquid crystal. And we're walking liquid crystal, you know, and liquid crystal picks up information. It's both a receiver and transceiver. You know, water stores information and fields and energetics, and we can talk about all the other ways that, you know, water works. But, you know, when you look at, you know, when you look at any sort of life form in existence, it requires water. So there's definitely insights that need to be, you know, looked at as far as what we're doing as human beings, and how we're choosing to regulate or privatize water on this planet.
Someone just before you said that revolutions are spontaneous. When people get too much pressure and they get fed up, they say enough. So I hope everyone says enough of putting water in bottles, putting water in tubes, putting water in right angles, putting water full of chemicals, putting water to be taught in schools fragmented. That is my favorite schizophrenic behavior. It's something that is a unified substance as fragmented. And thank you for making crystal clear that we are not only a stardust, we are liquid crystals walking Earth. And as she made us, we have to respect it deeply and understand it deeply before touching it or making any policy that can shift the behavior of the substance that you are immersed in. Thank you for having it so clear and said that through your work and your intentions, and collecting the ones that are with the same mission to free water from human confusion and structure purity and fractal structure within it. And I hope you be found by someone who can implement all this wisdom in education, policy making, art, entertainment, any industry, because confusion is so big that I don't know, like it has to be really spontaneous, the alignment. I think water has to do a really good job. Ether, please wake them up all, including me. And showcase yourself, the invisibility of interconnection. Can you repeat that word that you say? It's a crystal. Say it again.
Lattice matrix.
Lattice matrix. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming and being here. And I hope you're found and supported and sponsored and like welcome everywhere to share your wisdom and the ones you work with. And I acknowledge you from here, from all the human community, the one that's here and the one that doesn't know you. Thank you for making us last longer by restructuring the substance we live in. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience for them to recover their authority about water and stop any disorder behavior in their communities? Is there anything that Athan Bloom wants to share with them as, I don't know, as an authoritarian ex-military or as a human that understands that is life, respecting and protecting life? Could you just share something for us to take over our authority and say no more about this?
Yeah. I guess we're all in this together, whether we like to think so or not. And the problems, as mentioned earlier, from our planet, on our planet, need to be, solved from a higher level of understanding than levels of understanding they were created with. And that's why we're here. And we're looking to work together with people that want to solve problems. So reach out to us. Let's work together, and the future is ours if we choose so. Let's make responsible decisions and, create solutions that are there for generations ahead, so we can create, a template and a roadmap to have, a sustainable future for humanity, where we don't have to get wiped off this planet. That's my message.
Thank you so much for encouraging fraternity and unification and raising awareness about the human family fixing things together without waiting for someone external to yourself to restore your order and restore your health and your sanity and your perception of unification. This is our own responsibility as the ones teaching us and leading us and guiding us are completely confused, not seeing things that like unified as they are, and seeing things fragmented and promoting competition and isolation. So thank you for surviving humanity domestication and schizophrenic behavior. Thank you for giving hope and faith in thriving and blooming. Never mind, Athan Bloom is made for blooming. So I hope you have a long life too, and you take care of yourself, and you are found by the ones who can really make a difference and support the implementation of nano resonance and blue boson all over the place. And we want to have crystal water within, not right angles water. Thank you so much. We have someone talking now about devices to use light and sound to restore frequencies, high frequencies within. So you can stay with us, or you can go back to your not a connected house without the internet. Thank you for driving out. It's really early where he is. I don't want to talk about countries neither time because it's just an illusion distance. But it's really early where he is at. And he has to drive out to find the connection because he dropped it. So thank you for the effort. And thank you for being here with us, sharing such amount of good intention and big heart that you are, and such amount of wisdom. Thank you, Athan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Always.
Right.
Take care. Bye.